Okay. All right. Once again, I'd like to welcome us all to this webinar. And I'm certain, I'm really sure we had great time yesterday. I mean, the feedback we've gotten after yesterday is just so amazing. And that gives us assurance that today certainly is going to be certainly much more better because we ended on a very good note yesterday, so we can be sure. So once again, you are all welcome to this forum. I would like to welcome us especially and also want to thank you for finding time to join us yesterday. And I believe strongly that the lessons that we took from yesterday is still very strong. So before I would like to call in the chairman for his opening remark, I would like to quickly state some few things that we need to know. Just like we did explain yesterday, the ground rules, things that we should note. We all know that all participants will be muted, and we can only have the moderator and the speakers, and that's the only videos that we're going to be enabled. Also, I would like to quickly say that for the question and answer, just like we did yesterday also, please let's make sure we do make use of the chat room. You can quickly drop in your question. That will lead me to also apologize because I know that there were quite a lot of questions that probably we didn't attend to yesterday. So you do well to ensure that you quickly put in your questions so that we'll begin to look at how we begin to answer them in good time. We believe strongly that today we'll have everything well. Also, where necessary, if you have things to say, if we feel that there's a need for us to allow you ask your question directly, that opportunity will be given and we're going to unmute you and ask you to do that. And so lastly, we should be aware that, like I said yesterday, we're all in this together. Nobody has a monopoly of knowledge. The reason why we're here is for us to learn. And I believe that we're going to glean one or two lessons, just like we did yesterday. And so let's be open-minded. Let's grow together, let's learn together under this platform. And I believe that strongly it's going to be a wonderful time. Once again, you're all welcome. Again, before I like to call on the chairman to have his opening remarks, because I will not want to take too much of our time, just a bit of recap of what happened yesterday. You recall that yesterday we had 3 speakers. We had the opportunity of getting to know the prospects that we have in the real estate industry, which was taken by ESV Olusegun Oluyemo. It was a wonderful time. He took time to explain to us, open to us, the opportunities that are done for us. And thereafter, we went on to look at the pathway, what exactly, I mean, how do we get to do it right as surveyors? I mean, how do we encourage people, for those who really want to become associates? It was broken down yesterday in a very, very, very simple and a very perfect manner. The things that we need to do for us to get elected and also to get elected. So this was done yesterday. And also, lastly, the icing on the cake for us yesterday was the management aspect where Mrs. ESV Wednesday took us on to talk to us on commencement and the process and standard of property management. It was a wonderful time. And I want to believe this is, it shows what we can actually learn. It shows the capacity that we have as the branch. It shows the capacity and the caliber of people that we parade, I mean, from the Lagos State branch. And we're so, so glad, I mean, for us to have this great opportunity. Today, too, we have 3 wonderful gentlemen who will be doing justice to, I mean, the teaching this afternoon. So without further ado, let me quickly allow the chairman to come in with his open remark. Thereafter, we'll go to take the profile of all the speakers. Then we'll begin to invite them in one after the other. So, Mr. Chairman, the chairman of the very branch, please let's have you with your open remark.
Thank you very much, Sanjo. I want to appreciate the participants and the speakers yesterday for a wonderful time we had. Indeed, I said learning is a continuum, and this is what we begin to see day by day. And you have said it rightly. We have a lot of people with a lot of stuff in Lagos State branch, and I think also NIESV generally, but we are always trying to harness the capacity of the people we have in the branch and the very branch to ensure that we can do cross-pollination of knowledge and spread the knowledge capacity that we have so that we can grow the our knowledge base, especially the upcoming ones. And that's why this particular program is dedicated to the probationers, graduates, and students. And I must also commend the 3 tertiary institutions we have in Lagos, Unilag, Yabatech, and Laspotech. They should actually be the HODs of each of these schools should actually be on the panel, and they should be visible. Just like yesterday, we tried to do that, and same way this today. But one way or the other, maybe they've not been able to link up. But the idea is to have this program in collaboration with the schools, and they've actually helped in sending these messages to all their students. It's also keeping them engaged at this time that they are not currently in the classrooms because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the restrictions which we are witnessing. So I believe it's going to be a good time. A lot of expose yesterday, and so many more will also be coming today. You are going to also be seeing how you should do it right and which other areas we could leverage on in improving our practice, so that when we have the students coming out of the classroom into the marketplace, they are also able to, have a broader spectrum of how they can practice, specialize, and contribute to the to the body of knowledge and practice as estate surveyors and others. So I want to welcome everybody. I believe it's going to be a wonderful time. Let's keep our writing parts close by and take notes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. We can't but always thank you for having this kind of program. Thank you very much. And so without wasting too much of our time, let's get into it straight away. In getting straight to it, what I intend doing right now is to read the profile of the people that we have that will be sharing with us this afternoon. We have 3, like I said earlier on, we have 3 wonderful gentlemen who have actually made their marks in on the pages of history with regards to real estate here. I mean, in real estate industry. So I'm going to take their profile. I'll read the profile so that we don't have to be reading one after the other. We'll read the 3 profiles. The first profile I'm going to be reading is that of ESV Asiu Adebayo Layinka, who incidentally will be leading us in the first session and will be taking the topic land administration processes in Lagos State. So ESV was town planning in Lagos. He then proceeded to the Great Obafemi Awolowo University to study estate management. After graduation, he proceeded to serve the country. And during this period, he enrolled for his master's in construction management at the University of Lagos State. Proudly made a PhD grade. He later joined the service of Lagos State government as the land office. Went back to his school, that's University of Lagos, to commence his LLB program. He graduated in the year 2010 and immediately proceeded to the prestigious Lagos Law School for his BL program. And graduated from the school in the year 2011. He has over 9 years post-call experience in his credits today. In the year 2012, he commenced his LLM program at the same University of Lagos and completed the glory. He proudly holds also in Joint Institution of Ethics of Years and Valuers. He is an associate member of the Nigerian Institute of Management. He is a fellow of the Institute of Corporate Management. He is a fellow of the Institute of Auctioneers. He is a member of various committees of the institution and currently the chairman of Outdoor Subcommittee. That's the profile of our first speaker today. But before I allow him to speak, like I said earlier on, he will be taking us through the topic land administration processes in Lagos State. And you can be sure that we have no person better to do justice to this based on the information and the profile that we've just seen. Also, I'll quickly go to the profile of the second person.
Okay. We need to see Mr. Lainka. I believe when we are seeing their profile, we should be able to see them.
Okay.
So
can we just see Mr. Lainka, please? Let's just see him. So that I'll put face to the profile that has just been read.
And Mr. Lainka put his video on.
I'm coming. The video is on now.
Okay, beautiful.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so that's, I'm sure we can see as the Wasiu Adebayo Lainka. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Mojo.
All right. Okay, so let's quickly go to the second. I would like to read the profile of the second person who will be taking us on the topic, the practice of estate agency under NIESV and ESVs ethical standards. So the person who will be doing justice to this is no other person than ESV Sam Eboigbe. ESV Sam Eboigbe is an alumnus of Yaba College of Technology, where he graduated in 1989 with a higher national diploma certificate in estate management. He has a professional postgraduate diploma in auctioneering from the University of Ibadan. He has attended several local and international workshops and conferences. He is an associate member of the Nigerian Institution of Ethics of Years and Valuers and is very soon to become a fellow of the institution as well. He is a full member of Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria, a member of the International Real Estate Federation, and so many other organizations.
What I just did now,
He is the chairman of the Faculty of Estate Agency and Management. He worked in some reputable estate surveying firms and presently the managing partner with their company. The head office in Victoria Island, Lagos. Can we put a face to this the boy to play? Please, can I, Secretariat, please, can we have the ESV Sam Eboigbe, please? Can we just say, okay, I think it's there. Thank you very much, ESV Sam Eboigbe, for joining us this afternoon. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
All right. And so I'm also going to be reading the profile of the third speaker that we have. And thereafter, we just go into it after this. I mean, the third speaker will be taking up from where we stopped yesterday in terms of management. We'll be talking about practice of property management too, where he'll be sharing with us handling maintenance challenges and landlord-tenant relationship management. So I'm going to be reading the profile of ESV Oluwaseyi Sowemimo. ESV Oluwaseyi Sowemimo is an associate of the Nigerian Institution of Ethics of Years and Valuers and a registered ethics surveyor and valuer. He obtained his Bachelor of Science degree in Estate Management and Master in Real Estate from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Osun State. He has worked in various fields of the real estate profession at a number of real estate firms where he gathered requisite knowledge of the real estate market. He established Seyi Sowemimo & Co., a firm of chartered surveyors and estate valuers, in December 1999. And the firm has grown into a partnership with 2 partners and head office in Lagos. He is currently the principal partner of the firm. ESV Oluwase Isuemo is a contemporary real estate practitioner who is focused on standards and the adoption of international best practices with bias for valuation, property facility management, and as well as real estate consultancy. He has had several trainings, including courses in transportation infrastructure valuation and estimating and benchmarking at the University College of Estate Management in the United Kingdom. ESV Oluwase Isuemo has a deep passion for orderliness, character, integrity, value for others, and civility. He is happily married and blessed with children. Thank you so much, ESV Oluwase Isuemo, for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you. Sorry, the other one is the adjunct. You are removing this.
ESV Isuemo, can you hear me?
The adjunct.
Welcoming you to this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, good to have you. All right, so let's get into this quickly. I would like to ask the Secretariat, please, can you help us mute as much as possible the audio so that the feedback will get a very good, the feedback is good. Let's try and clear the noise. Right, so let's quickly get into this right away. Without wasting much of our time, I would like to invite and call on Wasiu Ayinka, who is an assistant director at the Lagos Land Bureau, who is going to be talking to us on land administration processes in Lagos State. Please, the floor is yours, ESV Wasiu Ayinka.
Thank you so much, Fabrice. Thank you. I am for today. The topic was land administration processes. In Lagos State is a very hard plan, just touch bits by bits of land administration states. Then my first will be a period
Yes, your line. I think there's a problem with the audio. Can we get I guess there's a problem with the audio.
Hello.
Okay. Okay, the audio seems bad. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's from the speaker or something. The audio. We can see you clearly, but the audio seems a bit bad.
Okay.
Oh, I guess it's the network. Probably the network.
But I'm here to.
Sam?
Are you ready? Hello?
Okay. It's better now.
It's better.
Yes, it's better now. It's better now.
Okay. Yeah. So land administration in Lagos will talk about pre-1978, which was before the coming of Land Use Act. Then I'll talk about post-Land Use Act. Pre-Land Use Act in Lagos State, before the creation of Lagos State in 1967, we have 2 different type of tools that can be created on land. You know, Lagos then was Lagos colony, where we have next is a Lagos colony of the so Western region. So the high part of the colony, while MOs are a title for the land that falls with the mainland part of the colony. The island part of the colony then comprised of Lagos Island, Victoria Island, as so the from Europe to street. So today, the next one to do it. All the were Western region. Scatter you to area and the
yes, you're lying. Sorry, yes, you're lying. I think we still have problem with the audio. Do you want to take up the earpiece? So probably, I think maybe from the earpiece or something. Are you using? Do you want to take out the earpiece so maybe it will be better?
So,
hello, sir. The audio is. I'm saying the audio is still.
yeah,
yeah. Do you want to take off or probably use an earpiece? I don't know which. If you're not using an earpiece, do you want to use one?
Your voice is cracking. I hear you probably. Just continue. Continue.
Yeah, you try and continue, but it's the audio is just a bit rumpled, so we are losing out on most of the information you are giving us. So it's a bit, I think it's from the audio.
Hello?
Yeah, this seems better. Hello? Wow. There is an issue with the audio.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Moderator, please. Can Mr. Elijah remove his stop video but continue to speak? Maybe that will allow Mr. Elijah. Mr. Elijah, can you hear? Stop video.
Yes,
Stop your video, then speak. Just leave the speaker on.
I should do what?
Okay, speak like this with the video off.
Okay, I should just speak like this. Okay. Hello?
I think it's clearer.
Yeah, I think it's clearer. So you
clearer.
can go on, sir.
It's clearer now.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So with the coming of Land Use Act in 1978, both titles were merged into two. But the 1978 didn't cancel that was rented before the coming of the act. So we still have all those LOs, MOs, title land with their register and everything registry. While we still have all those conveyance that was done then, part in Lagos State Registry and part in Ibadan. Like the coming have now asked to now administer land in the state vested in the governor of the state. So no individual can lay claim to having a freehold on land. So now, as it is today, the governors with the powers conferred on them, like the governor of Lagos, by virtue of Section 7 of Land Act, can grant titles to any person in respect of any land in the state. And by virtue of Section 9 of that Act, the governor can have the powers to issue certificate of occupancy under his hand in evidence of right of occupancy that has been granted to an individual in respect of the land in the state. So this therefore means that the title to land, which before now was in two different forms, has been merged and consolidated as one, which now comes by way of certificate of occupancy. So the certificate of occupancy today forms the root of titles. So you have two legs of title. You have the root, you have titles. The roots of titles, the manners and ways through you get this certificate of occupancy, which is a root of title today in Lagos State, will be explained further. We have a state grant that comes by way of land that is carved into different plots, consider different uses: residential, commercial, institutional, recreational, and all stuff. And we term that kind of land as schemes. We have some of those schemes around. The likes of Magudo 1 and 2 today, they are schemes of government, large expanse of land that was carved out in plots with different uses. Then we have only 1 2. We have K1 Lekki 2. We have Georgia. We have all of such schemes. Even in the Korodu, we have Korodu GRA 1, GRA 3. We have Grand View scheme, and all. We have so many of them like that. So in respect of that, if you request for an allocation in the state and the allocation is granted, what comes out eventually is a site that has been filed on respect of that land. Now, what we issue in respect of such is a yellow CFO that is known to everybody. But today, everything has changed. You know, Lagos State is a pace setter. We have graduated from the grant of yellow CFO, which is analog, to a digital form of CFO, which is electronic. So in doing that, it is electronic survey plan that will be prepared by the Office of State Surveyor General that will be used in generating the CFO electronically. The beauty of that is that the certificate of occupancy will be prepared online from lands all the way to the governor's office. Governor on his table will sign those CFO online. It will be sent to the Commissioner for Stamp Duty, who will sign online, then send to the Registrar of Title that would have signed online. Then at the end of the day, it is just a copy of that CFO that will be printed and be given to the applicant. So the days of cloning of CFO and falsifying information in respect of CFO go over. So another form of titles that is created, the certificate of occupancy as well, comes by way of Dame Grant title. Dame Grant, by virtue of Section 36 of Lands Act. That section was saying that the land that has been occupied by people for the coming of the act, that the act would deem them to be the rightful owner of the land. So all they need to do is just come to us and pick their title in respect of the land. But unfortunately, for the years, we've seen most of these people to come on, but we never see them. So, you know, you look at 1970 till date, and the act was saying that for you to have a title in respect of land, you must have attained the age of 21. So meaning that in the contemplation, the drafters of that act were viewed in 1978 how to claim that he or she is a Dame grantee must have attained the age of 21. But unfortunately, most of those people that will buy the land within that neighborhood there will be like in their 30s, 40s. and they will want to lay claim to having a title in that 1978 that they want to pick today. It is difficult because by that 1978, most of those people that are 30, 40 today probably were not born then. So for you to now say that, okay, you want to, so you will see people falsifying age, that, oh, I'm 60, I'm 70. They will submit the photograph, they put power on their head or something, just put up a makeup that makes them look old. So when we realize all these anomalies, we now came on board to say that, hey, look at, rather than allowing this false information and everything, because, you know, we need to gather all this information into our database. And we don't want to be having false or negative information in our database. So we now said, okay, no problem. Come up with a policy. That is turned to you saying that we can declare your age. We are not particular your age. And again, we are not issuing certificate as we used to do in the past. But now we'll prepare a deed of dream grant. We have a type copy of that deed in dream grant. Just do it, submit all the necessary information, then we'll give you your title. So as it is today, in the past, we were given certificate of occupancy in Federal Act to evidence your title in respect of that land. But today, we've done it in such a way that we just have a deed of deem grant to confer title to you in respect of such land. Such land, you find them in the whole area of Lagos. You find them in Igudu. You find them in part of Shomolu, Bariga area. You find them around Arujobe, at Maryland. Then you find them around Badagry. We call them free land. Free land in the sense that the Land Use Act, by virtue of Section 36, recognized those people as the rightful owner of that land before it came into being. And then another form of title that creates a root in Lagos State comes via regularization. You know, Lagos State is so magnificent. Rather than some government land that are not permitted, land that has been compulsorily acquired for project or compulsorily acquired for future project. But uninformed public would approach the land owners from Monile and procure interest in this land unknowingly, about the land who, you know, ignorantly come to lands to say that they want to perfect their title. And on getting here, now be told that, look at this land that bought falls within the land that has been acquired by the state, and that we can't regularize or grant title in respect of that land. Ordinarily, Lagos was moving bullseye to clear off all these structures. But because of magnanimity of the state government, you know, Lagos State government is like a father to everybody. So Lagos State government will sit down and look at the issue and look at other than the demolishing structure. Why don't you regularize their stay on the land? So with that, we came up with the issue of ratification. We came down to the issue of ratification. So that ratification includes with your it will come now to your general for chatting, it will come to land and to Attorney General for the endorsement of the title. It was cumbersome. It was cumbersome and it was creating a lot of problems. But about 14 years ago, idea of bringing all professionals that process application by way of rectification was brought on board. So submission was written to the then governor, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who graciously gave a plan that we should create something that we call a one-stop shop. So that one-stop shop brings about all professionals that works on this regulation under the same roof. planners, surveyors, evaluators, land surveyors, cartographers that with all this application. When I come, we came under the same, and the directorate was raised as Directorate of Regularization. It was changed from rectification to regularization. So what we do is, those people that has bought Lagos State land that has no title, that falls within acquisition, can come up, look at it, and see whether their title can regularized or not. But, you know, we have to create a working tool. The working tool creators, we won't allow the whole of it to be bastardized. We won't want to just be jumping on land with the belief that government will come and regularize their state. So we carry out all those areas that we know that has been densely built, densely populated, that if we have to move in closer to demolish structures, not only Nigerians, the whole world, United Nations, and everybody will not see it in a good thing. So we decided to cut all those areas. So we have areas where we regularize around Isolo. We have parts of Okota. We have the whole of my 12, part of K2, part of Ojota. So we have all these areas in the state like that. And there are some other areas where we have noticed encroachment that they have been talked to the state that we should start, come and regularize their state. But, you know, we're working on them because we have to put up a submission to the governor to get approval to regularize their state. So another form of created in the state come via excision. Excision, that is extension of villages and communities in Lagos State. You know, like I said, Land Use Act recognized the presence of the indigenous landowners on land before the coming into of the act. But you know, all these villages, you know, they've developed a little land that they have. And all the lands around them has been invested in the governor of the state. They come up to us from time to time to say that they want their villages extended or expanded because, you know, their children land for developmental purposes and everything. So government is doing like, okay, give us the survey plan of the entire land that you have in that neighborhood. We'll look at it. Then, you know, we have a committee that will look at all these things. The committee comes inspection of the land. Then the committee will give recommendation as to the size of the land that can be released to these indigenous landowners. So after the release of the land, such land will be gazetted. You know, in most of this land will be gazetted and will stop at that. So the process in the way has always been inchoate. We don't condemn because, you know, the Land Use Act has limited the right you can have on land to 99 years. There's nothing like freehold in land in Nigeria alone. So if you're granting a time via a set that didn't specify the time of years which the land was released to you, that means that you are a perpetual owner of that land. So to limit your right and interest on land, we have to grant a certificate of title, a certificate of occupancy, evidencing your title in respect of the land. And the maximum that we give of certificate of occupancy is 99 years. It's the maximum number of years that we grant. So now, for all the extensions that we are granting in the recent time, we go further to now certificate of occupancy to beneficiaries. It must be noted that excision can only be given to communities and villages. Excision can never be given to an individual. Then we have another way through which we grant title, private sector developers program. So private sector developer program, because Lagos government realized that we can't develop all the land in Lagos State by ourselves. We have large expanse land. We have all these our scheme, our estate. We have a estate, we have a LSB estate, but we still can't build everything. So we encourage private developers that have wherewithal to develop land to come on board. You allocate land to the land allocated to you may be carved out into plots and be created to site and services where all you sell the land they own. Then another form is for you to actually develop all this land and be selling to public. So we have likes of HFP that developed Villa Garden City. That's part of private sector developers program. Then we have other developers within Lekki corridor that all they do is just the land, divide them into plots and start selling. I have documents that will be required for grant, but I want to tell you that can make those information available for the Secretary NIESV Lagos branch, where this can be sent to all these institutions and members of our noble project. I don't be reading through all the documents that you will need to bring on board to apply for all these things. But one of those things that I want to, the second leg, which is the subsequent transaction, detail, because these, I believe, most of our students that are graduating from need to tap into. Because I always say this to people: if the processing of application for governance and this is meant to be the sole business of any other professionals, the scheme of service in Lagos State or in Nigeria wouldn't make it that it's the estate of yours value that will be working in land and be working on perfection of titles. So since the scheme of service identified estates of yours and values, who are the land officers in the state civil service, as genuine and the appropriate officers as defined by land use act to be acting on this, all our colleagues out there must be encouraged in one way or the other to be coming to lands to do this thing. I always tell, to digress a bit, I always tell our estates of yours and values, they always draw on time where the money has not been made transaction. You know what interesting is the land of the building has been sold, the agency fee, we have gotten our agency fee of 5 or 10%, and then now we share the agency fee. And on most occasions, you have like one tout somewhere, 2 estates of you and of you sharing ₦1 million. And maybe you were able to make 100 or 150,000. Then you go out there and be saying that you have made so much money. You drop it, and a lawyer will now pick that transaction from there, come and make millions from transaction. And this is transaction that you were the one that consummated, you were the one that started and consummated. So it's always that our estate of yours and valuers don't know that this they actually make me. So I would want to stress it to you. I have to say it. It's a win-win situation for us. We need food soldiers. The food soldiers are those ones that will go out there, get these jobs and bring them for us. Lagos State government needs revenue. Lagos State government can't go to the nooks and crannies of Lagos to be watching all those transactions that are going on minute by minute basis. That I know that I'm in Lagos State, land transactions happens almost every minute in a day. So for us to now be losing out on that thing is painful. We see very few estate surveyors and valuers coming to land to process application for governor's consent, for example, subsequent transaction. So we want to encourage that you'll be coming from time to time. So subsequent transaction that I'm talking about, we are talking about an assignment, a mortgage, power of attorney, or what we do is when someone acquired interest in land, the first thing you want to know is that, oh, does the person who sold the land to me have a title to that land? Or the person that want to sell the land to me have a title to that land? You collect the registration particulars of that title that the proposed seller or the seller want to sell to. You come to lands to verify the title. You want to do your due diligence on that property. When you get to lands, you give them the registration particulars of that title. They will help conduct the search for you to tell you that this title has not been encumbered, or if it has been encumbered, what has happened subsequently. For example, a title that has been pledged with a bank for a loan, and the mortgagor had paid up the loan, and on the title you still have encumbrance saying that the title still rests with the bank. All you need to do is just go to the bank and tell them, or go to the person and tell them, no, you have to release that property. You go to the bank, get the letter of release and get it released. That means that title has been freed. Then again, there are times that, they are fee unencumbered. So when you cover their fee and unencumbered, then you go ahead and advise the buyer to buy. After the buyer has bought, what you need to do is to tell the buyer that, yes, now we have to prepare a deed of assignment, or a deed of power of attorney, or a deed of service, things like that. After preparation of deed, you go to lands. We are always going to do that for you. Even in your office for 1C, you cannot give you for 1C. So they will be in your office for your use at any time. So as the parties to the transaction, both the assignor and the assignee, or the sublessor and the sublessor are signing the deed, you give them a copy of the Form C to be signed as well. So when that one has been done, this deed and the Form 1C signed, you have no business with that. The only thing you can do is this, because in Lagos State, when you are processing that application, eventually we would ask for the proof of payment of personal income tax of the assignor and the assignee. So at that point, you can ask the assignor, please, can you give me the proof of payment of your income tax? That is the receipt, treasury receipt, with which the assignor pays his tax. Once you have gotten these three documents with you, you don't need the assignor any longer. You have to get to assignor government. And most of these assignors, they are shy. When you come back to them, they will ask for money to sign those documents for you. They will tell you sign for months. When it's sold land at maybe 20 million, and today they are selling the land for 100 million, you will believe, well, there has been a added value to the party. So you can't just tell to be signed this document, so I have to pay me so much. They do that a lot. So to get that guide against that, ensure your deed assignment, your Form 1C, signed at the point of consummation of that contract, and then ask for that proof of title. Then with that one, you now get the certified true copy of the title that you searched for from the registry. You pay 5,760 to get that one. Then you get a certificate of incorporation of the assignee if it's a company. or certificate of incorporation of bodies like all these registered trusts buying the land. Then you need a site photograph of the property. Maybe if a land, photograph of the land. If there has been another improvement land, photograph of the unexhausted improvement on the land must be taken. The citational sketch. Then you would have to pay 10,400 for charting, endorsement, and Form 1C. You get the receipt of that and you include in the document you are submitting. Means of identification. You that you are submitting that application to us must give photocopy of your ID. We need to know who clients are and who we are dealing with. So on the submission of all these documents, your application will be processed for you in land. So be that as it may, let me go into, because I don't want to stress us so much with the title creation. But in lands, other than creation of title, we have so many other things that we do that's unknown to us, and they can as well. We do acquisition, revocation, and some matters. By virtue of the land that has been ceded to individual by the governor of the state through state grant or through DIM grant application or through regularization can be revoked by the governor of the state, though the revocation must be for overriding public interest. Overriding public interest means the development that will be beneficial to you and I. For example, government intend to build a stadium. We can revoke the interest of the people that lives within the area where we want to build a stadium. Government do that. We can revoke the interest of those people that live within that area that has been identified for the construction of the market. Where government want to build school, where government want to do anything, housing estate and things like that. Interest of people can be revoked. Again, where government wants to construct, maybe construction of a new or expansion of existing road, we can revoke interest. Section 29 of the Act speaks to compensation. So government won't just leave you to go empty-handed. Estates of yours and valuers that are land officers in Lagos State government services will come to site to enumerate the properties you have on ground. Properties in this case speaks to unexhausted improvement we have on the land. Unexhausted improvement we have on the land include structures and economic trees that we have on the land. So if you have cocoa trees, if you have rubber tree, even if you have cassava on your land, even if you have maize being planted on your land, we have appropriate compensation that is due to you. So the officers in the ministry will go and do this thing. So the procedure of site identification, we want to build a school. And this school we want to build, where do we want to build it? We identify the site. So we select that particular land for the proposed project. So because we want to plan with the people, we don't want to just plan for them. You want to school. You won't say because you want to build school, you just get there, you just start demolishing their properties and everything. No, you would have to have an engagement with them. So the engagement you usually have with them comes by way of stakeholders meeting. So we'll come together. We'll tell them the need for that school in that neighborhood. We'll tell them, we'll let them realize the importance of the school for them and their children. Then, we plead with them. It's always painful. You have your identity with the place where you live, and you want to now remove the identity by demolishing the structure. At times it may be historical structure, the structure that has been passed down from generation to generation. So you have attached social values to that property. For us to now say that, oh, we want to demolish that structure to give way for the best use today, we need to talk to you. So through the stakeholders meeting, we'll sensitize the people, we'll plead with them and let them know that, okay, this thing has to be done. Then after that, we'll carry out a reconnaissance survey. This reconnaissance surveys will go through the land and everything, the surveyors, the estate surveyors and valuers, land surveyors, estate surveyors, and planners, builders from Ministry of Works, and all other professionals that will be involved in the construction of that school from the beginning to the end. Then the survey plan and the survey description of property, that land, will be prepared by the Surveyor General of the state. Then we'll have to prepare, because revocation has to be done properly. So we'll have to prepare revocation notice to be endorsed by the governor. Then these notices will be served on the affected people. Then after the service of the revocation notice, we'll publish in the widely read newspaper, then we'll gazette it appropriately. Note that if we miss one of these steps, that revocation process is null and void, and it can be challenged in court. And where it is challenged, the state government will use the matter. So what we always is that we guide through all these processes jealously and make sure that we will do what we're supposed to do properly. Then on concern mass, want to guide against those people that are not affected from coming up to make claims for compensation. So we would ask people that are affected by any of those projects submit their claims. Their claim would involve title documents they have on the land or the building they have on the land. So one, you submit your survey plan if you don't have, because Lagos State government today doesn't look at whether you have title registered in respect of the land that has been acquired from you, or you don't have title, because we discovered that most people won't have title to their land. And to say that it is only those that have title to the land that will be compensated may seem punitive in a way. Lagos government, like I said, is a father to all. So Lagos State government will look at least he has built something on that land. Let him just bring us or bring to us documents that will tie him to the land. Document that will show that he actually procured an interest in that land. So in such instances, your survey plan showing your name and that particular location of the land will suffice. The receipt you collected from the Omuniles will suffice. So then after all that has been done, like I said, the officers will contact, assess the unattested improvement on the land, come back to the office to compute compensation payable. After compensation payable, and everything will be bundled together in a file, then sent to the governor for necessary approval, because the payment we're going to make to the claimants must be approved by the governor of the state. So after the approval, the file will come back to us, then payment of compensation would commence. In some cases, we don't give monetary compensation. In some cases, we may give alternative allocation elsewhere. If we are acquiring large expanse of from you in a place, rather than calculating what the monetary compensation should be, would make recommendation to His Excellency that we should give alternative allocation to you elsewhere. So on occasion, some of the affected people that have large expanse of land are always very happy with such, and that we have done for so many people in the state. So aside this, in land administration in the state too, when you are getting your title prepared this and things like we are all human. At times you have errors in the titles that you are creating. Errors as to the name of the grantee, errors as to the size of the land as stated in the schedule to the title, errors to the coordinates quoted in the survey plan of the title. So where we have all these errors and the grantee eventually notice this and come back to us, we have a way through which we rectify those errors. So we call the process rectification. So we have a unit that deals with that rectifies or corrects errors in title that has been created by the state. So that errors, where need be, you would have to submit documents like an application telling us that an error was noticed in your title. You prepare a deed of rectification, 2 numbers. Then you now, if it's an error that has something to do with survey plan, you would have to do another survey plan that is reflecting the true information as to the ownership of that land. You prepare that survey plan, then you would have to do a publication in the newspaper saying that an error was noticed in the title that was granted to you by the state, and you wish to correct the error. Then your means of identity card, your means of identification, maybe national identity card, driver's license, voter's card, and the stuff. You have to get it ready for us. Then sworn affidavit saying that that error was actually committed. Then you would have to make payment for stamp duty, 5,000 naira. You make payment for the endorsement of those deed, 10,000 naira. Then for the registration of that title, you pay 100,000 naira. Irrespective of the size of the land, the amount payable for rectification of errors in titles is fixed, is 115,000 naira. Then there's no way we would talk about land titling, land registration that we won't mention stamp duty. Stamp duty is
Sorry,
what
please, can we quickly begin to put a wrap to this, because I know there will be a lot of questions probably in this regard, because I'm beginning to see them, so that we'll be able to take questions, sir.
Okay, no problem. After the creation of those titles, after the endorsement of deed of assignment by way of subsequent transaction, the file would go to Commissioner for Stamp Duty. At Office of Commissioner for Stamp Duty, Commissioner for Stamp Duty will want to confirm that both parties to the transaction has paid their taxes. Once that has been verified, the document will be stamped. Then after the stamping of the of the document proceeds to the office of the Registrar of Titles, where they were registered. Register means that you collect a copy of the document from there, then a copy will be kept in our registry. So the document that is kept, the copy that is kept in our registry is the one that you come back to search for whenever you want to confirm the status of the property. So the registration comes with a registration number or registration particulars. You always have them in 3 numbers. It could be, for example, 22/22/2019 or 10/10/2010 or 5/5/1999. At times, when you have 2 titles registered as 5/5/1999, an alphabet will be inserted behind the 1999, maybe 5/5/1995A, 10/A, something like that. So thank you very much, my moderator. So
thank you so very, very much, ESV Wasiolayinka. I know there's no way we'll be talking about issues that has to do with law that we're not going to be talking to. I mean, a lot. That's really, I mean, if you're going to understand the process of land administration, we certainly have to talk, and I believe strongly you've done justice to this. I know, I mean, there will be questions. I've seen one question already for you. We'll come back to that. I mean, let's quickly have other people, other facilitators to come in and speak, then we'll go back to the question. Once again, thank you very much for your presentation. So without further ado, I would like to quickly, because of our time, I know yesterday there are quite a lot of people who also sent in questions we couldn't attend to. So I know, please, let's try as much as possible to keep within the time so that we'll be able to take as many questions as possible. So right now, I'd like to invite ESV Samson Eboyike, who will be speaking to us on the practice of estate agency under NIESV and about ethical standards. So please, let's have ESV Samson Eboyike to make his presentation. Thank you, sir. ESV Samson Eboyike, please, are you there?
Yes.
I know you are here, please. Okay, please, can we have your presentation? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay.
Can hear you.
It's my pleasure again to appreciate the leadership of the branch under the able leadership of ESV Dotun Bamigbola, with his entire team, Lagos State ESCO. This period that the world is talking about COVID pandemic, Lagos State branch is going haywire. Yeah, before I go ahead, the speaker that we have just listened to, it was quite full of insights. What he told us this afternoon, so much to learn from. I quite want to greet my other panelists. The topic before me this afternoon is a wonderful topic because, as we all know, estate agency has been fraught with so much of challenges. So much of challenges. We have so many battles on every side that we have been fighting, both as institutions, as practitioners, and as stakeholders. It is not from ELCC asking us to come and register, then possibly it's from Lagos State asking us again to come and register. But it would be good this afternoon for us to realize that estate agency as it being practiced in Nigeria today, with their professional guidelines, ESVABOM, as it were, has professional guidelines. And I recall 2 years ago, NIESV, having established various faculties, requested of our faculty of estate agency and marketing, to establish a committee to bring forth professional guidelines that will guide our practice in Nigeria, and that was done. So I will be talking about that guidelines today that was submitted to the management committee and to the council as well, that all practitioners, estate agency practitioners nationwide would adhere to strictly in the performance of their duties. I'll go ahead to start by talking about the general professional guidelines and guidance. The very first item showing there says that from the very first day that you become member of the Faculty of Estate Agency and Marketing, you undertake to abide and marketing. The second one says, I was telling someone, estate agency is the doorway of our practice. Before anyone will be asking you to do a valuation, or anyone will be asking you to do project analysis, first and foremost, you will have met anyone asking you for a house. He wants to let a house. I need 3-bedroom flat. I need a bungalow. I need a detached house. So ideally, professionalism will start with estate agency. And that's why some few years ago, we had some speakers, when we had our workshops and seminars, they were invited to talk about how to professionalize estate agency in Nigeria. And we were encouraged by their submission. So one, we ensure professionalism in the discharge of our duties without compromising standard, without compromising standard. 3, carry out our works with due skill, care, and diligence. Care and diligence. You know, it's so funny when we actually talk about professionalism. You have an instruction to let a house, you have an instruction to sell a house, a property, at a point or in the middle of the transaction. You call for meetings, coming for that meeting. Asking, what are you doing here? I didn't speak to you. He will tell you, this person you gave the instruction informed me of this transaction. In turn, I informed the second person. You find about 5 or 6 gentlemen in your those people trying to conclude a transaction, and it is a very valuable. So we must ensure professionalism. Furthermore, ensure that clients are provided with terms of an engagement which are fair and clear. They should meet all legal requirements and relevant codes of practice that ESVs and NIESV has already set up for us to follow. Do the utmost to avoid conflicts of interest, and when they do arise, deal with them openly, fairly, and promptly. Conflict of interest. We must disclose interest that we are bearing so that we inhibit you from undertaking your exercise in a way to meet the needs of your clients. If you are aware of issues that will not empower you, enable you to achieve the assignment before you, it's your duty to ensure such are disclosed even before you start. We are not supposed to discriminate unfairly in any of our dealings. We have to be very fair. Fairness is the watchword. In dealings with clients, ensure that all communications, both financial and non-financial subject matters, with so much of fairness, good intentions, and be transparent. And be transparent. I will just go ahead to want to talk about 5 sessions, under which the ethical codes we'll be talking about today will be tackled. The first session is duty of care. Duty of care. We have a duty of care to carry out our work with due skill, care, and diligence by ensuring that the best result is achieved on behalf of the client without compromising standard. Without compromising standard. You know, when we talk about standards, when you see a banker, you know he's a banker. When you see an engineer, you know he's an engineer. When we see an estate agent, what do we see? When we see an estate agent, what do we see? Estate agency is part of our work, is part of our profession. As an estate surveyor and valuer, agency is necessary for us to be able to tell everyone our profession. And so we are not supposed to give out confidential information of our client without express permission, except he expects us to do so. Except our client expects us to do so. When we have been given an assignment, there is a need for us to understand that before we can actually recruit other sub-agents to assist us in our assignments, without express permission of the client, I must ensure that such sub-agent complies with professional guidelines. Professional guidelines. Now, it's so funny these days that when two firms are dealing on the transaction, please, I need to inspect that. Still me. Are you coming with your client? I said, no, I'm not coming with my client yet. I will see what I am marketing, and thereafter I will bring my client. There's that tendency that he's not going to allow you to come and inspect. I can't tell one recently, and I was asking, if I'm dealing with a quack, I can understand. When I'm dealing with a fellow surveyor, I need to inspect the property. Before even telling my client what I'm seeing, don't you believe I need to see it? So he said, no, we have a policy in my office that we will not allow you to inspect except you come with your client. That is not professionalism. Ideally, as a faculty, there was something really we put in place recently, a program called MLS. MLS is multiple listing service. That is where we expected all practicing estate surveying firms to subscribe to that program. As a matter of fact, that's an opportunity for us to control the practice of estate agency in Nigeria. We have the size, we have the population. What that simply means is if I'm in Nigeria, if I'm in Lagos and I have a property in Kano that I intend to sell or to let, I do not need to go to Kano. Simply just collaborate with someone in Kano, especially if that person in Kano has already published that property on MLS. I will just consult him. At the end of the day, I let him know exactly what I want. He is there to conclude that transaction. At the end of the day, we have a win-win situation. Professionalism. Duty of care. I'll move over to dealing with conflicts of interest. Then from there to non-discrimination and responsibility for others. Members must make every attempt to avoid any conflict of interest that might not be in the best interest of a seller or buyer, of who he or she is acting. You must disclose any interest in property promptly and in writing. conflicts of interest should be avoided where this is possible. You should cease your activities for all clients involved. Conflict of interest. Members must not discriminate against existing or potential party to a transaction, either on the basis of gender, race, creed, religion, disability, among others. Let me say something here. It's so funny, as professionals, when we represent clients and we are told that you must not give that house to someone because it's from a particular ethnic group. We are, as professionals, we are to ensure that we don't allow discrimination. But we are aware that from previous records, that what we have heard about certain people from particular tribes, that some landlords have already stolen, they tell you, we don't want such person coming from such tribe. But as part of our ethics, we are not supposed to discriminate. So it's our duty to call our clients and let them know that as Nigerians, we ought not to discriminate. More so, as professionals, that is part of our ethics. Not to discriminate. Security instructions. Security instructions. Prior to accepting instructions, members should know whom they'll be working for and how they will be paid. When you, by the very first day that a client tells you or engages you to do something, that client is a potential client that will bring in so many other clients in terms of referrals. Security instruction. Once you have done your job creditably, you have put on decent performance as a professional, he will always refer you subsequently to other people that will patronize you. But when you secure instructions, it is good from the first day that such instructions are put into writing. If, for instance, he has informed you that this is what you are to do for him, not what he is saying to you. When you get back to office, do a letter to him. Let him know that this is your understanding of the brief. Alternatively, you could ask him to write you an official instruction engaging you to transact in that property so that there will not be issues, there will not be challenges that will come up in due course. Quite a number of us, the moment we have been engaged by our clients, that is all. We don't even have documentation. We don't have issue to prove that so time was the time we were secured by this client. So it is good for us to secure instruction perfectly so that we don't have troubles, we don't have issues in due course. Members should know who they'll be working for and how they'll be paid. Yes, of course, that's very important. You discuss your fees as well. Discuss your fees. Of course, we are aware of what our fees is, 10%, where we are allowed to negotiate, but not to a point that you will lose your professionalism. You will lose your sense of dignity. You can't, I understand that times are hard. In a situation whereby you are recruited and you are paid peanuts, what would that count? I think it's actually better as professionals. The moment we have been engaged, we should let the client knows the time duration. If you have been engaged as someone that alone, that means you don't have other competing with you, then that is fine. But how that's competing with you, there should be a time frame to say, okay, my time is 6 months, my time is 1 year, or my time is 2 months. It's usually better to ensure that issue of time is entrenched in the letter of engagement, appointing you either to let or to manage that, either to let or to sell that property. Also, the following issues must be adequately considered when instruction is being given, namely sharing information with the potential client. Okay, yes, charges, taxes, terms of engagement, types of agency, finalizing terms of engagement, commission, and other documentation. offering services to other parties, special types of sale or lease among others. And we just move now to representing both parties, one acting for the seller, marketing the property. In the guidelines, this one deals on advising the seller on the marketing of the property. It follows the sequence of events from undertaking the market assessment to agreeing a price or rent with a buyer. Now, once we have been engaged to either market, to negotiate the sale of a property or to let the property, then we should obviously find out what they call agree with your client. This property, how much do you want to sell? It tells you, I don't know how much I'm selling it. You advise me. Of course, that's another instruction. But you want to retail that client. More often than not, we don't go ahead to begin to ask him, let's do valuation. We go ahead and just do sports assessment, or we go ahead and to test the market. But it's good to always agree, this is the price that we are to market this property. This is the asking price. This is the bottom price. And this is the price of that property we have to be sold. Of course, we have everything to always inform him of the price that we are getting in the market. Well, if it's someone that is enlightened is asking, go ahead and do valuation. I think it's unethical for your firm to go ahead and carry out that valuation. It is actually better to ask another firm to engage another firm in the valuation, because in the case where you are the one selling, you are the one valuing, the issue of morality is coming to play. I think it's usually better you secure the services of another firm to carry out such valuation, so that it will be completely independent. The opinion thereof is not something that is subject to contestation. So if that is done, then we have a basis under which we are going ahead either to sell that property or able to let that property. The following must be taken into consideration, namely, okay, market advice, reporting advice to the client, keeping of records, determining methods of sale. Determining methods of sale. There are so many ways we can display professionalism in marketing that property. Where we are in an era right now of internet, where the whole world has become a global village. Gone were the days that we used to use some other means to market property. Right now, we can go through the net. Facebook is there. You go through now a lot of professionals set up WhatsApp in the bid to broadcast information to fellow colleagues. Then we have the website. I was saying that before, the website. In an institution, we have the multiple listing service where we are entitled to contribute and become subscribers and publish what we have. If I'm in Lagos here, I need to sell something in Lagos to somebody in Akure. By the time I publish on my website and MLS, somebody in Akure is seeing it, is calling me, and we are transacting. And what we have always said in making sure that we entrench the principles of MLS is that if I have an instruction from a principal to sell a property, it's not ethical, it's unethical to secure a buyer. At the end of the day, I'm collecting fees from my client who has instructed me to sell that property, at the same time collecting fee from someone who is equally buying. Quite a number of us do this. It's unethical. You are not allowed to collect fee from the person that is buying. And that's what the MLS are there to promote. MLS is such that if I'm engaged by a principal there, a stakeholder, a potential buyer having access to that website can contact me via that website, and I'm not supposed to collect fees from him. Now imagine if quite a number of us having instructions to sell, we all come to that website, and Nigerians are aware there's a website they can go to without paying fees. We capture client base in Nigeria. Quite a number of them will be coming in there. Now, in the first instance, you're looking for double fees to collect. If for the past 6, 7 months you have been trying to sell one property, you have not been able to sell. Have you that? You haven't died. Now, if you now have a medium where you can sell a property under 1 month, just collect fee from one source. Are you not happy for it? Yes, you're happy for it. Now, so again, you can resort to newspaper publication. That is quite helpful and handful, provided it's that instruction. So it's quite you to have a property that is not your direct instruction. You go ahead to put that property in the newspapers or use some other online methods to advertise that property. One way or the other, potential inquiries will come and we want to go for an inspection. They go in there. Of course, if by the time they go in there, they see balls of someone who is the main agent, except we have disclosed initially. Except we have disclosed that. So it's always good that what we are marketing is someone you have direct instruction, direct brief, so that you don't dissipate your energies. At the end of the day, there's obviously little or nothing to show for rate. Now, as professionals, yesterday, Vivian talked so much about that, how we are to appearance. Well, when we see a banker, you know how he looks like. When you see an engineer, you know how he looks like. You see a police, you know how he looks like. As an estate surveyor and valuer, as noble colleagues in a noble profession, dressing is essential. Very, very important. In our faculty, several years ago, we organized seminars and workshops. We carried our program of branding. Branding, right from the time you present your complimentary card, the way you dress, the way you knot your tie, the way you look, the way you cut your hair. Your dressing is very, very, very important. Royal meetings, you are invited for lunch after you have gone for meetings, and etiquette, how to sit with those that matter in society. If you are asked to come for lunch and you are seated, ethics, what you are to do when you are seated, what you are to do when you are requesting someone to give you cutleries, when you have finished your meal, when it is time for you to get up, what you are to say. Ethics, very, very important. How you conduct yourself, how you conduct your affairs determine whether that client is going to ask you to come back again to do so many things for him and for her. Very, very key and very, very important. Now, this period that we are talking about virtual meetings, we are talking about virtual business. It is a time for us to be able to understand that we will need to cover much ground. Quite a number of meetings are going on right now. People no longer go for meetings physically. You can convey meetings anywhere in the world through certain methodologies that science has bestowed upon us. And so we must equally use that avenue in a bid to advance our business, what we do, using technology, deploying the instrumentality of technology to advance the cause of our business in agency. You are in Nigeria here, it's easier. We're talking about carrying files and carrying documents for meetings. That can be done effectively. Don't need to go to Abuja to go and pay the signature on the transaction. Right here in Lagos, you can obviously choose do such things. And so it's good for us to keep abreast of developments and innovations in the entire world so that we can equally advance the cause of what we do. Only a few days ago, we were able to hold our meetings, annual meetings, and we saw transfer of Martin from one president to the other. We didn't have to be in Abuja, but that's what's done. So that's what technology can do for us in this era of we're trying to ensure that we display extreme professionalism in all that we do. So the last thing I obviously want to say right now is the fact that estate agencies as well, we as a faculty had tried to abide by what we were asked to do by the institution in a bid to ensure that set forth a B before National Assembly. Because as we speak, estate agency has become all commerce affair. It looks as if that it is not exclusive right of estate surveyors and valuers. We have quite a number of professionals, one number of professions claiming that it is there.
Mr. Sam, your mic is, yes, Sam, your mic is muted. Please, can you unmute your mic?
Right to okay.
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me? You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go on. Yes, yes.
Okay. Yes. So I was talking about the fact that estate agencies, as it were, it is becoming difficult for us to claim that we are the only ones that can practice estate agency. Apparently, because we've not been able to substantiate the politics of estate agency in Nigeria. And the management committee informed us, asked us to establish a committee in a bid to put up what I would call a B. We have that the team up with us to put forward a ban. The moment that B sailed through the various readings in the parliament, and it is the of outside asking for people to come and rent property, business. Everyone, even the client that has recruited you sometimes is an estate agent. So that is ongoing. And by the time we succeed in ensuring that be passed through the various stages in the parliament, in the Senate, and becomes a law in Nigeria, and that estate surveyors and buyers are in charge of estate agency business in Nigeria, they will have succeeded substantially in making sure that we adhere strictly international best practices. So thank you so much. That's what is said. Hello?
Thank you very much, ESV Sam. Thank you so very much. And I'm sure I can see that there's a question already for you on the chat room. But before we go on to the final speaker, I would like to quickly also mention that please you can use the chat room for your questions. I mean, I'm glad that ESV Wasiola Yinka has been able to answer 2 questions from the chat room, which made it a lot easier. I mean, that's very good. So a lot of us can go back to the chat room. You can also look at the question. If time permits us, we may go to those questions for him to answer, but you can also go back, look at those questions, and look at the answers that we've offered. So once again, for all the participants, please let's ensure that should you have questions, let's go to the chat room and let's drop our questions. Thank you once again, ESV Samson Eboigbe, for that thought of yours with regards to the practice of estate agency under the NIESV and ESVABON ethical standards. Without any further ado, let's go and have our last speaker, who's going to be putting the icing on the cake just like we had yesterday. You know, I'm sure it's been a wonderful time so far, and I'm sure that we're going to enjoy this moment too. So we're going to be having ESV Shi Chuemimo to be speaking to us on practice of property management. So we'll be focusing on handling maintenance challenges and landlord and tenant relationship management. And so within this short time, he's going to be speaking to us. Then we'll come back and take our questions and answer. ESV Chuemimo, the floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, able moderator. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Okay,
yes,
great.
Very clear.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Chairman. estate surveyor and valuer for putting this together. And to all our listeners, thank you for waiting the time. I know the time is fast spent, but I am taking a lot of learning, so I'm sure it's going to be really rewarding at the end of the day. All right, practice of property management 2, handling maintenance challenges, and then landlord and tenant relationship management. So what is property management? We'll just do a bit of recap from what we looked at yesterday, and then we'll build on it. Estate surveyor and valuer Vivian Iwenezi did a fantastic job yesterday, and I took a lot of points down, which would help me in ensuring that I do the practice of property management even better. So in its most broad sense, it's just the operation, control, oversight of real estate. Of course, as defined by Thorncroft, it's direction and supervision of interest in land and buildings. Basically, what you do not care for will deteriorate. So everyone, including human beings, I mean, not just properties, needs to be cared for. So management obviously is caring for and then properly monitor that accountability can be given to extend the life and condition of property. Now, property management is very lucrative, but it has to be handled properly before you can get the gains of the property. Now, generally in Nigeria, it's very easy for us to import any architecture. You go to Banana Island, go to Lekki Peninsula, go to Old Ikoyi, go to Ikeja GRA, go to Surulere, even come to Ilupeju and Ikeja. It's very easy for us to import architecture and we do a beautiful design, but proper maintenance and management culture in Nigeria, you'll agree with me, is lacking. So the investors do not give cognizance to this. In actual fact, a lot of property owners, they don't think they require the services of estate surveyors and valuers until they start having problems with tenants. I remember a property, I mean, not even one, not twice that has happened before. A client calls and says, oh, I have this property that I want to manage. One particular person said, it's a block of 4 flats, but there's this good tenant in the lower flat left wing. So I'm going to be handing over to you 3 tenants. And this 4th one is good tenant. This tenant. I don't think you should continue with them since you decided you want to give your property to a property manager. Let us have all the 4. She said, no. I said, okay, no problem. So she gave us 3. Of course, we managed the 3 successfully. And just slightly over a year down the line, she started seeing the difference in how we handle the property. And then at this time, she started seeing some funny things, behaviors from the 4th tenant. So little wonder, she called us into our to our house and immediately handed over the 4th tenant to us. So what that means is we're able to, within that short time, deliver value that she couldn't provide by herself. And she saw the need for us to handle the property for her. So as investment in real estate is massive nationally and internationally, the only way to sustain the expected returns on such massive investment, all right, is by a systemized and coordinated management. The service can be provided by us, the estate surveyors and valuers, all right? And yes, they call us jack of all trades and master of all. But guess what? I don't think this is so. It can't be true in the current business climate. You can't be jack of all and master of all because emphasis is now being put strictly on specialization. So where are you good at? Now, one of Nigeria's problems, like I said, is, again, too many experts talking generalities. And that's why you find a lot of people dabbling into, like my brother has said, estate agency and any, well, I don't want to use the wrong word, but they say Tom, Dick, and Harry just ventures into agency and property management. So how do we then, separate ourselves? So it's uncertainty, this uncertainty of these many talks that leads to the experts to come in and the diversity of solutions to a particular problem that leads to clients' request for professional services. Now, this is where the opportunity to act for the estate surveyor as a specialist, all right, comes to play. And then we're able to distinguish ourselves. So who is this estate surveyor? Of course, there is the property manager. He's hired to oversee the day-to-day operations of a unit of real estate. All right, so what skills does the estate manager need? He needs a full understanding of value, cost, and liabilities, investment appraisal, a good knowledge of the real estate market, a good knowledge of construction. I mean, and all these are part of our course of study in schools, all right? He needs a good knowledge of property management and maintenance abilities. And then he has to be a good negotiator, all right? A persuader, and actually a politician. And he needs very good communication skills, and he needs people management skills, and above all, he needs leadership ability. Why? Because he's the go-between the tenant and the landlord. So he feels the heat from both ends. So he needs to be able to properly harmonize it, all right? So the role is not easy for the property manager because he combines a range of technical competence, all right, with financial acumen and managerial skills. Now, the estate surveyor and valuer must be able to advise his clients on the performance of his investment and the need to divest and reinvest if and when necessary. So that's why he needs a good, be a good investment appraiser. Then he must deploy very good communication skills, like we have said. Now, going forward, what are the general management activities? We looked at this yesterday, so we're just doing a quick recap and just building on them. Now, you get your brief and document it properly. And as been said, even with estate agency, who is giving you the brief? Be sure it's the right person. Then introduction of the firm and company will have to follow. Then you build a property assessment by visiting the property and then meet with the occupiers. And after you've done that, you can then build your property folder on it. Then if there are portions that you need to let, the spaces to let, you let them out or lease them. Then you go through doing that, your tenant selection and legal documentation. Now, let me say something about tenant selection. Like ESV, Eboigbe said, people tell you they don't want people from this tribe. They don't want this from this ethnic, convince your clients. I say to my clients that it's not the person, it's not the tribe, but the person. We have good Igbo people, we have bad Igbo people, we have good Yoruba people, we have good Yoruba people, we have good Hausas, we have bad Hausas. So why don't you just do the vetting properly for you? Now, let me tell you what happened to a friend of mine when it comes to that tenant selection, so that we don't think we can put just anybody in a client's property. Now, my friend had a property he was letting, and then a tenant came on board, and he did this KYC properly, know your customer, and he got the guarantors, forms, pictures, and identification, and all whatnot. And then just like we do in our office, as a rule, if you're taking up our residential property, we'd like to know where your office is. So would try as much as possible before we consummate the deal to deliver the letter of offer, even if we have sent it to your mail, personally to your office. We don't have to meet you. All we want to do is confirm that you work there and that's your office. Now, this guy lets his property to his tenant, did his due diligence, and then about 5-6 months down the line, now, of course, he has disbursed money to the landlord. The Nigerian police visited his office with a picture of the guy and asked him if he knows the guy. And he said, oh, yes, he's one of my tenants. And they now told him that you gave your property to an armed robber and he's on police wanted list. I mean, how could you know that? You won't go to the police and do a search. You won't go to the police and do a search at the police station if he was a criminal. Of course, before we knew it, they arrested my friend, a colleague estate surveyor and valuer. They arrested him, took him to the police station. It became a mess. And of course, thank God that he did his due diligence. So he carried the file from the office to the police station. So on going through the file, they realized that he did very good and proper documentation. Okay, so you did all this, fine. Did you go to his office? Yes. Did you meet him at the office? Yes. So he has an established office? Yes. Okay, fine. That's the office the policemen eventually also found out and went to. But the police now did, what they did now, they now said, okay, that the money is stolen money. He would have to refund all the money, all right, and also hire a vehicle to evacuate all the items in the property to the police station, all right, which is what he did. I mean, of course, you can imagine what this caused between the agent, the SA surveyor, property manager, and the landlord. But thank God he was able to resolve it. Why? Because he did due diligence and proper documentation. Right, so routine inspection, pre-vacation, and post-vacation inspections should actually also not be toyed with. And then building maintenance should also be given its pride of place. And then rent renewal and review, then preparation of accounts and disbursement of rent. Disbursement of rent, like ESV, Vivian, when it talked about yesterday, we should never ever let our landlord's money, let me just put it literally, we shouldn't let it enter our eyes, which is the bane of a number of people. Some people collect 2 years payment from tenants and disburse 1 year to the landlord because they say, okay, I mean, after all, it's supposed to be 1 year. Let me quickly use the money. And the trouble starts, I mean, if the landlord finds out or the tenant, anything can happen. The tenant says he wants to determine his tenancy and he wants a refund of what he has paid. All right, so let's disburse as we collect. And then eviction of occupiers, we'll talk more about this when we get to handling the issues between landlords and tenants relationship. And then insurance, what we do in our firm is we advise our clients on insurance, and we actually offer free service to our clients and to encourage them to insure their property. We do the valuation for insurance for them free of charge. We don't charge since we manage their property anyway. All right, so we'll go to the roles and responsibilities of landlords. Landlord is to provide decent and standard accommodation, ensure safety of the property for habitation, maintain the covenant of quiet and peaceable enjoyment, maintain the property, pay appropriate taxes, and other rules as might be spelled out in the contractual agreement. Now, for the tenant as well, he pays rent, as I went due. He uses the property for intended purpose only. All right, maintain the property in a clean and habitable condition, notify promptly of any maintenance issue, and then pay for all items consumed during the tenancy, which includes electricity, security, within and without, all right, and etc. And then also he's supposed to fulfill all the covenants as enshrined in the tenancy agreement. The expectations of landlords from tenants is maximum return on investment, then prompt disbursement of his rent, like I said, then regular check on the property. I tell my surveyors in the office, let your landlord hear from you. Every letter that emanates from your office, make sure you send a copy to the landlord. And anytime you find yourself within the locality of where your landlord or tenant lives, stop by the property, say hello to the tenant, say hello to the landlord. Of course, you would ask me if that is possible. We pray it is still possible because COVID is going away. Now, professional advice on enhancing rental potentials should also offer that advice. Asset protection by securing good tenants, minimize vacancies, then arrange timely and cost-effective maintenance, then effective reporting on accounts and the property, then dedicated and effective property managers. That's what the landlord expects from you and the property. Now, expectation from tenants, habitable property, value for his money, safe and secure environment, peaceable and quiet enjoyment of property, then prompt response to maintenance requests. Now, that causes a lot of problems in property management. So maintenance challenges and how we try to resolve them. Now, poor condition. Now, poor condition, you have to develop a good maintenance strategy and set up tasks necessary to ensure your rental property is retained in good condition. Now, what do we do at Yeshua & Co? Well, we have our own checklist, and that's what we call our property maintenance and management preventive maintenance checklist. All right, they say that a cure or a stitch in time saves 9, and an ounce of prevention is worth tons of cure. All right, so we have a checklist for routine maintenance that we perform regularly. At best, we do half yearly because of the covenant of peaceable and quiet enjoyment. So what we now do, other than the checklist, is on-call maintenance services. We encourage all of our tenants to please call us as soon as they notice any defect, all right, or any maintenance request in their property. And we in turn respond swiftly. Because if they call you once, they call you twice, they call you 3 times, you don't respond, they won't call you anymore. So as soon as we get their call, we deploy immediately a surveyor to go and evaluate what has happened. And then based on the relationship we have with the landlord, we move to quickly effect the repairs. Now, This we do by phone calls, of course. You would agree that's actually what most of us do. But however, there are apps now that have been developed, all right, that enables tenants to submit their request for maintenance and then tracks it. And we too pray that by God's grace we'll graduate to that pretty soon, because it actually gives ease of handling. So delayed payment of rent is another challenge. Delayed response from owner as well. We're going to look at this a bit more when we start talking about the relationship handling. Then setting and maintaining maintenance budgets. Because of the peculiarity of the Nigerian state, it's actually very difficult a lot of times because of delay to come up with a budget and execute with exactly the same amount. So what we try to encourage our landlords to do is, please, as soon as we bring this to your notice, let us quickly execute so that we don't incur unnecessary costs, such that we now start to call for variation. And most landlords do not welcome variation in repair costs. So maintenance activities coordination, that's a major problem with, what do you call them, artisans. You know, before you give them money for repairs, they troop to your office. And then the minute you pay money out, you start chasing them up and down. And that's when one father that has died 10 years ago suddenly dies again, you know, and things like that. So what we try to do as much as possible is we'll intervene in the purchase of materials. At least we get the materials to site a lot of times. And then what we now have to deal with is labor. So we now agree on the milestone payment for the labor, based on the project at hand. They're managing the tenant at this period as well. We need to carefully do this assessing surveillance and balance, because it's a touchy thing for the tenant. I have this request that I need you to deal with. And for instance, my roof is leaking and you're still not attending to it. Like a tenant told me one day, Mr. Shuamo, you are sleeping pretty in your house. This is 2 a.m. He called me at 2 a.m. in the morning. And he said, Mr. Shuamo, you don't have a right to sleep because I can't sleep in my house. And I said, I am sorry. I am waiting for a go-ahead from the tenant landlord. Not a go-ahead per se, but there are some things we're trying to sort out with the landlord, which we eventually did. So I have to deeply apologize to the tenant so that I don't present the landlord in a bad light. The recovery of unpaid bills, this is very, very key, all right? Tenants have the habit of leaving properties without paying the bills that are due during the pendency of their tenancy. So we have to be sure that we regularly visit the tenant and demand officially for records of these bills with respect to the property. Electricity, for instance, is major, like ESV. When it said yesterday, a lot of tenants even bypass electricity. And if it's found out, someone asked a question yesterday, who pays the bill? The landlord would definitely not pay. So if you don't do your due diligence, the managing company is in trouble if you allow the tenant to bypass. So what we do, like she said yesterday, is call for vouchers that they recharge with and weigh pari passu what the tenant has in his property. So if a tenant is recharging 3,000, 4,000 in a month, and you see what some tenants say that, well, I don't use my air conditioners. But what we do is just ensure that we regularly call for the receipt and just believe that there is no bypass. Of course, we've had to deal with issues of bypass before. The landlord didn't pay and we had to pay. So from that time, we've had to open our eyes and wake up to our responsibilities better. So when we do all this, what do we tend to gain? Of course, there's increased property and rental values, all right? There's also satisfied tenants. To satisfy a tenant, you don't want to deal with a dissatisfied tenant, all right? Before you know it, it starts to breach the terms of the covenant and it starts to care less for the property. Then it also reduces cost, because an efficient maintenance program helps you save money, even the client. So it minimizes risk and extends the life of the building. Then it prolongs the life of the property and reduces workload, all right? Then it also increases profits on the property and it maintains your own good reputation. Now, let's quickly go to the relationship further. In the words of Brad Sugars, business is all about relationships. So how well you build them determines how well they build your business. And in the words of Stiesel also, so the relationship between landlord and tenant should be strictly a business one. So if business is all about relationship and the business between landlord and tenant is a business one, or relationship to a business one, then You as the estate surveyor have to be sure that you keep that business intact. The landlord built his property, expects returns. The tenant pays money to rent the property. You are in between to get your fee. So these three stakeholders, all right, in this business are very important. And sometimes in this business, disputes occur. Is it even sometimes? Many times disputes occur. And like someone has said, even you yourself and you dispute with yourself. How much more when it's now 2 and 3? Certainly dispute will occur. So the management contract has to be very well firmed out. And like ESV, EVA Winnings said yesterday, please ensure that your tenant signs the tenancy agreement before you hand over keys to the property. Otherwise, it becomes a problem afterward for you to retrieve that tenancy agreement. Don't be too surprised if for 1 year, you're not able to retrieve that tenancy agreement because issues happen in properties. So ensure that it is signed and a copy of the inventory is also signed at the point of handing over so that when disputes arise tomorrow, you have what you have, your documents to fight with. So the contract, management contract for tenant. So your role as the property manager is all about representation. So you must strive to and ensure that the terms of the contracts are properly implemented. Why? Because you are the go-between. You are the go-between the two parties. So how do you present your landlord to your tenant? That's a question for us to answer. So quickly, let us now look at the causes of disputes and then practical resolutions that we can look at. The first one is tardy payment of rent. It is said that you are your landlord's best friend when you pay your landlord's rent as a when due. You are your landlord's best friend. Every other thing aside, and is actually proven in this business that we have done for many years. Shall we then now say that e-payment, which has come to make receiving rents easier for us, has now become a problem? Why am I saying that? Of all the transactions we've had this year, I can count on these two hands the number of checks we have received. It has been e-transfer into our accounts. And in turn, it's been e-transfer into our own client's account as well. However, the tenants have our account numbers. A tenant owing 1.5 million, for instance, for a property, suddenly pays 200,000 naira into your account after all discussions. And then we're livid. How do you tell your landlord that your tenant paid 200,000 naira out of 1.5 million? And you call the tenant and the tenant says, well, I'm sorry, I didn't want to spend that 200,000 naira. That's why I said, let me deposit it into your account. Now, this is after the expiration of the tenancy, when the full rent should actually come in. How do you deal with that? Well, what do? We keep encouraging the tenant to quickly pay up, and we do not issue a receipt of payment until the full rent is paid. And then, apologetically, we carry our landlords along. Well, we didn't start carrying the landlords along because we're like scared of how the landlord would react to such information. But then we now find out that somehow the landlord will just get a wind that the tenant has paid some money into your account. And then like ESV Winnings said yesterday, it becomes a matter of integrity. I even have my 200 out of 1.5 million, and you don't think you should let me know. What if I have had a need of 100,000 naira and I didn't know that you have my 200,000 naira? So what we do is we'll report the case to the landlord. All right. Some landlords say, send the money back to the tenant. And we've had cases where the landlord insisted against all advice, and we had to issue, now you don't know the tenant's account number. I'll come to that in a bit. So we'll have to issue a draft and send it back to the tenant. But in our acquaintance form now in the office, there is a section where you have to declare your account number and the bank. Now that's also part of our KYC. So what we do is we go online and make as if we want to transfer money to you, and then your account name pops up and it corresponds with the person that we're giving the property to. So we hold that. So if, for instance, tomorrow you play such a prank on us by paying a silly sum rather than pay your full rent, and the landlord insists that we return the rent to you, we don't have to issue any draft or go through any motion. We just simply write a letter of our landlord's distaste for what you've done, and we send the money to your account, and we send the letter to you via mail. All right, so we do that. So misuse of property. Now, property can be a source of emotion for landlord. Now, he's therefore very, very, I mean, he holds personally what happens to the property. I remember a case in point of a property that we rented out to a man who started house fellowship in the property of a block of 4 flats. And the tenants started complaining that they were holding house fellowship in the property. And we went to visit with the man and asked him to desist from such. So he said, okay, that they would not shout anymore. They would have solemn worship, blah this, blah that. A few months down the line, the man got called by whoever I don't know as a pastor and started a church in their apartment. You can imagine what this would, mean for the rest of the tenants. A property that was taken as a residential property and suddenly becomes a church. For such a case, we have to involve our lawyers and with the approval of the landlord, ensure that the statutory notices were served and we moved to evict the tenant from the property because there is now misuse. And there is delayed response to management requests. Now, what we do with respect to that, maintenance request more like, is we encourage our landlords, although very few landlords abide by it, to retain a little sum in our account for repairs that may come up in the course of managing the property. Some landlords oblige, but most landlords take all their money because for a lot of landlords, the full rent that is collected, having deducted your fees, is income to me. All right. So for the ones that leave some money with us, we're able to execute more quickly. For some others, since we have firm instruction managing the property, we get the approval of the landlord. As long as the repair work we're talking about is not too burdensome, we execute the repairs from our account. And then when we collect rent, we deduct it before we disburse the rental sum to the landlord. Of course, we send a letter to the landlord and he gives us the go ahead to do this. So we document it properly. So that's what we do with respect to that. I mean, some have said that there is insignificant relationship between landlord's response to tenant's request and tenant's settlement of rent. And some have also said that the relationship between tenant settlement of rent and landlord's response and not in obligations. And it's not because that, look, I've been asking for you to do this repair and you're not doing it, why then should I pay rent? But if they know that that is not the practice in your firm, they will not hold your landlord's rent in lieu of maintenance. Now, some actually withhold the rent and channel it towards the repair. Now, this is very wrong, and it causes serious dispute between landlord and tenant. Why would you withhold the landlord's rent and channel it towards repair? In the first place, before you spend money on behalf of the landlord, you should get the landlord's written consent, and the estimate for the repair must be duly approved. Not that it's not impossible, but that due process must be followed. But some tenants just do it and send the receipt to the office and say they have incurred costs on behalf of the landlord. So when you are ready to discuss, I will pay the balance of your rent. It causes serious dispute. But a lot of times we quickly wake up to our maintenance responsibilities and we don't let this happen because it's a big red flag. Now, communication skills, like we have said, regardless of how your landlord is feeling or what heat you are feeling from the tenant, you as the property manager should be the go-between and ensure that you do not misrepresent either party. Like ESV Winnings said yesterday, a tenant today is a potential landlord tomorrow, which is the truth. I mean, that's happened to us in many, 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 many instances. I remember the case of a man who considered a nuisance value in a property that we manage. And we wrote letters to him to abate the nuisance and remove the temporary structure. And he refused. Now, it's a temporary structure. So we went to the site with workmen and we told him, if you do not bring your workmen in to remove this nuisance value, I would have my workmen remove them, and then it will cause damages to the things that you've put inside. When he realized that I was serious, he had to call his own workmen to come in and carefully remove just abate that nuisance. And all the while he was calling me stupid, foolish, errand boy, common agent. If I don't pay my rent, will you get paid? I mean, all the while I was just saying, thank you, sir. No problem, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Just do it, sir. Yes, sir. It's fine, sir. You won't believe it. This same man built a wing of duplex and 2 flats where he moved to the duplex. And then amazingly, he called us that, Mr. Shemo, I have 2 flats behind my house. I think you should come and manage it for me, you know? So that actually happens if you handle it properly. I mean, in all that I said that day, I did not abuse him. I did not talk at him. All that he was saying to me, I was saying, thank you, sir. No problem, sir. All right, so there's also the issue of poor maintenance. We've talked about that. Then increase in rent. Of course, tenants will welcome increase in rent if it's justified properly. And how do you justify it? By responding to the tenant's need as and when due. If all that we have been talking about, delayed response to maintenance and or whatnot, are not properly taken care of course, your tenant would not welcome your increase in rent. No tenant expects the rent to remain at the same price forever, but you must adequately justify your call for increment. Failure to return deposits. Now, this refundable deposit is a major thing for our people. I mean, it is called refundable deposit. It is refundable if no damage is occasioned on the property at the point of exit. Now, a lot of people do not return tenants' refundable deposit. In our office, we return it if there is no damage occasioned to our client's property. Some clients require that we lodge the money with them, we give to them. Some other clients require that we retain the money in our accounts and do justice to it at the point of exit. We'll also do that. If there's no damage occasioned, we refund. If there's damage occasioned, which in most times is not even enough, all right, to treat the damage. So then we speak with the landlord and meet it halfway, and then we put the refundable deposit down. Landlord adds a bit to it, and then we're able to carry out whatever defect or, damage the tenant has occasioned on the property. And mind you, you'd only be able to do this with the refundable deposit and maybe a little something from the landlord if over the tenure of the tenant, you did proper justice to maintenance of the property and the tenant's responsibility in the property. Now, let me talk about request for possession. Now, this request for possession, I would say, is the biggest one. Eviction is never welcomed by tenants. The minute you tell the tenant the landlord wants to use the property and he would have to leave, it's as if you've drawn the battle line. It is hardly received in good faith, regardless of when it comes. So the tenant has a mindset that the landlord probably wants to evict him so that he can get higher rent on the property. So more often than not, the tenant begins to misbehave, so to speak, and cares less about the property and stops to care for it. I mean, at certain times, the tenant even ignores bills and denies the property manager access to the property. Like I said, it's like a battle line has been drawn. You know, when the tenant becomes this uncooperative, just be sure that the appropriate legal notices are served. At Shisha & Co, we have retainership with legal firms. So whatever is legal, we don't dabble into, from tenancy agreement to eviction to notices. That one has been outsourced to lawyers. Now, we also have some clients who have their own lawyers. So in such instances, we work with the lawyers of the landlord to ensure that the appropriate notices are served, all right, for each tenure of tenancy for 1 month, for 3 months, for 6 months, and for yearly tenancies, all right? And after which the appropriate 7 days notice is served. But you have to note that the notice that the tenant is entitled to must be a valid notice. and it must not be insufficient. So tenant enjoys a number of protections when it comes to this, as you would read in the Lagos State Tenancy Law, the Recovery of Premises laws of various states of the Federation. So the laws make it illegal and a criminal offense to forcefully evict a tenant, all right, because the court frowns at self-help. Now, let me share a practical case. Many years back, we were managing 2 blocks of 12 flats for a landlord, and we had an issue with the tenant who refused to pay his rent. Of course, all the letters we were writing to the tenant were sending copies to the landlady, and the landlady wakes up one day and says, we're not doing anything about her property, that she'd like to visit the property herself. So I go to the property, pick the landlady on behalf of the tenant. So the man said, "May, by December of that year, by the rent." So the landlady, I hope you can still hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. The landlady just blurted out.
Help us wrap up so
yes, I'm doing that now. Yeah. This is the last one, eviction. Okay. The landlady blurted out in annoyance that we should lock up the property. By this time, we didn't have as much experience in our firm. And stupidly, very, very stupidly, we went and we padlocked the property. This is for our learning. We padlocked the property on the 24th of December of that year. And the next thing, when we resumed in January, we got a court summons from the court. The man has sued the landlady and Shishama & Co. for damages and for forceful eviction. Of course, that was very stupid. The court frowns at that. So we went to court, but we had to settle out of court. We paid damages to that tenant. We paid damages to that tenant, paid the tenant's lawyer's legal fees. But thankfully, our own lawyer said we shouldn't pay. I mean, we should not meddle in matters that bother on the court. So I would say to everyone, as much as possible, avoid self-help. Don't ever help yourself. Don't remove roof from a tenant property. Don't remove windows from a tenant's property. Don't remove doors from a tenant's property. Don't put padlock on a tenant's property who is still in occupation. As much as possible, let the court resolve the matter legally. In conclusion, all that we have said above, if we properly handle them, this will foster very good landlord, property manager, and tenant relations. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so very much, ESV. I mean, there's no better way to wrap up this session than what we just had. I mean, it was just similar to yesterday's program, how we started and how God helped us all through, and closing on a very, very, very powerful note. Thank you very much. On this note, I'd like to thank all the speakers. I would like to thank our ESV, Oluwaseyi Sowemimo. I also like to thank our ESV, Sam Boybe, as well as I want to thank ESV Wasiu Olayinka. You've done justice to this, and I believe strongly that all the participants here this afternoon have had one or two things, a lot of lessons to learn. I had actually written quite a lot of things down here. So because of our time, I'm trying to see what we can do in the next 5 minutes to take some few questions. So I know that the questions for ESV Wasiu have been able to answer some few questions, I mean, with regarding to law and all that. So let me come to Mr. ESV Sam Boybe. Are you still there? Please, can everybody unmute their speakers, please? Do you have all the speakers unmuted? ESV Sam Boybe, are you on?
Oh yes, I'm on.
Very good. ESV Wasiu Olayinka, please, are you on as well? Can you please unmute your speaker? Okay. All right, so let's go to ESV, Sam. There's a question here. I'm sure you've seen it from the chat room. It says, "Is it compulsory to always be on corporate wear to be regarded as dressed properly?" I mean, you did talk about.
Hello.
You know, I think one thing in this whole session, both yesterday and today, we've talked about this issue.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
This I want to answer the question.
Yes,
Depending
like
on-
Okay.
Hello.
All right, then let's have the ESV boy answer that question.
Yes. Depending on what the assignment is, there are instances where if I'm going out, if I'm going to a place where I will need to go wear a suit, wear tie, then I will have my tie and my jacket in the car. Once I'm going to where I should put on my suit and the tie, I'll put it on. If I'm going to a place where I need to wear boot, I wear jean, I wear whatever I'm wearing. Compulsory that I must wear tie all the time. I must wear suit all the time. If I'm going for a dinner and I'm going to wear jeans and t-shirt, I'm not abusing my very essence of profession. So, but the issue is that look good all the time. If you're wearing a trouser, let it be clean. Now, apart from people who are dressing corporate, they will look at you. Now, for some of us now, somebody saw me today and said, I'm putting on a beard here. I said, well, it's just because of, I don't know. Now, if I go to a place and know my appearing in beard will make people to be afraid, to be scared, I'll clip it. I mean, I'll shave it immediately. So we look forward to where we are going. We study the situation. I just talked about you being invited to go for a dinner or go for lunch. Then look at those you are going to have dinner with. If you know they're all going to be dressed casual, then only you or the old man now wear three-piece suit. How would they be looking at you? So have an idea of where you are going. It's a matter of you.
All right. Thank you very much, ESV. I mean, that's good. So let me quickly ask this question. I know ESV has been able to answer some few questions on the chat room, but there's a question I have for you, ESV. I want you to rate what is the level, what do you consider the level of compliance and enforcement of land administration laws, with particular emphasis on Lagos, and if possible, if you can touch maybe Nigeria generally, what will you rate as the level of compliance?
Thank you very much. In Lagos and in Nigeria, we're just coming up. There are those laws there, but the level of compliance is low. It's maybe as a result of ignorance. So many people doesn't even know that all those laws exist. But it is for us as a professional body to be doing what we are doing now, dissemination of information, letting the young ones that are just coming into the profession know that we have all these laws that guides operation of our profession and guides land transaction generally in the country. Level of illiteracy. When we have the literates that are dealing with the illiterates, most especially the young professionals just coming on board, I believe the problem will be solved in the way. Take, for example, in Lagos State, as big as Lagos State is, titling to land, we have not titled up to 20% of the land in Lagos State.
Wow.
And that's a major problem. And that is why this digitization system we are doing, we're in a way trying to ensure that so many people were caught into the net of land and land documentation in the state. And I believe with the way Lagos State is going, we're going to ensure that so many properties were titled. And government of today, if I can tell you, is doing so much to make sure that we title as many properties as we can. And that is why the government before now. That is why we're coming up with different policies, policies of regularization, policies of accession and everything, just to ensure that we title all land in the state. But you know, government can't alone. It behoves you and I go out there to let people know that their properties has to be titled. And that is why we are here for you. Whatever information you need inside this webinar has been organized by the very branch, we are willing to give to you. You tell people out there or whoever that is listening to us here, whenever you come to land, Olayinka Wasi is my name, as you've heard, come around, whatever problems you have, we are here because of you. So when we enlighten you, when we educate you so much, I give thanks to that very branch with different lectures that he has organized. We have these resource center, which I want to implore everybody out there to patronize whenever we have programs that is being organized by the state branch. Well, it's a place to gain such knowledge. Later, you have other state officials, land officers that are experts and valuers that tutor people at the resource center. So I believe the idea of the chairman is to disseminate so much information to the members. And I believe if we key into this, we'll learn so much, we will give so much to our clients and the public in general. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Please, we are not going yet. Let me ask you one more question before I go to the ESV show anymore. I mean, we've talked about, I mean, from practitioner point of view, there's always this belief that, oh, the cost of titling is probably on the high side and all of that. So I want to ask you, in terms of cost, being the professional that you are, you're not just a lawyer, you're also an SSW, you're not just an SSW and valuer, you're also a lawyer. And with this wealth of knowledge and the fact that you've been, I mean, privileged to work in the Lands Bureau, would you say that title acquisition is fast enough? I mean, in terms of cost.
Thank you very much. In terms of cost, I will tell you it's not expensive. Because, you know, if you want to do that in grant consent, like I told you, you procure your title through the consent with a peanut. If you want to do regularization of your interest, like I told you, you get your title to land, of course, within regularization area with a peanut. Even if you want to get your governor's consent or assignment or whatever, you get it now. For example, for mortgage, for every 1 million that you get from a bank by mortgage, we charge 20,000. It's too expensive. No. So for governor's consent or an assignment, there was a time we were charging 15% of value. No, there was a time we were even getting 30% of value. We did 50% of value. At the point we reduced it to 8% of value. At the point we reduced to 6% of value. Now we are charging 3% of value. So government did all this to call people get their title registered. So we keep crashing the rate that we charge on value property. But when you look at a property in Ikoyi, because of the location and because of the value, we are not even using market value. Get that right. We are using statutory value. Our own statutory value is far below the market value. So if you're saying that, oh, a party that ordinary was bought for 1 billion in Ikoyi, and we now place our own value of maybe 300 million, we also that you get 3% of 300 million. You won't say that we have done badly. You won't say we have done badly. So we have tried our best. So in a way, what government is charging is not keep its origin. So I want people to do not look at this. Look at the people in the fee after they had paid 1 billion to the in respect of the property. It becomes difficult to pay 5%. Even if it becomes difficult to pay 1%, they may be negotiating to just give you 200,000 or 300,000. So that is our people. So God, in a way, is encouraging people with the return in the rate we charge. First of land transfer.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much, very much, sir. Yes, we show anymore. I'm glad you've been able to answer the question that someone raised in the chat room. But let me come to you with this question. It's basically, you've talked so much about communication, people management skills, and all of that. Now, in the light of this COVID-19 pandemic, how would you think that we can best manage effectively the tenants and landlord in the light of the challenge that we find ourselves currently?
Well, technology has come in, and whether we like it or not, it has changed our lives. What we just need to do as the go-between is to ensure that we're fully open to our clients. Now, you're not a magician and you're not a tenant. Once you maintain adequate level of communication with your clients, that's the landlord. Obviously, we communicate with the tenant, but the problem is a lot of us don't give a feedback to the landlord. For every letter you scan and you email to the tenant, ensure that you scan and email to the landlord. For instance, the issue of electricity, the meter is post-paid, it's not prepaid. And the